surrounded by compassion, where you're surrounded by empathy, forgiveness, and love. Surrounded by love. Surrounded by so much love. I'd love for you to come in with me, to stand by me, to see what we can do to change this country, to change the people that live in this country. I welcome you to Double PFR with love, with so much love. Double PFR. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, people. Are you there? Let me know my audio is working correctly and all that. Give me a round of applause or something, so I know that someone is here. Ooh, I see Charlie, and I see my wonderful sister-in-law, and hopefully my brother is there also. Welcome. I am so glad you're here, and I'm glad you heard the intro. So, I don't know what I'm doing tonight. Tonight, everything was just hectic. Hectic. So, I just sat down just like in a nick of time to do the show. So that's what I'm going to do. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I don't even know what that is at this point, but each episode I will do a poem that comes from my manuscript, Living and Dying. Before the poem, I will also give a glossary of terms that I use throughout my manuscript. Now, after the poem, I'm going to invite you, the viewers, to chime in. And if you're a little shy about that and don't really want to do it, it's okay. I'll just go on autopilot and just keep on talking. So the next thing I'm going to do is cue up the poem that I'm supposed to do and the music. Now, the first one is titled The Blue and White Eyes. Now, in my manuscript, I took great care to separate the Caucasians of this country. So I separated into the blue and white eyes and the decent white lives. So I'll start with the decent white lives. These are people that are Caucasian in this country, and they're really just decent people. They don't have real hate for anyone or anything else. They're just like anyone else, just walking around, just trying to get day to day, go to jobs and all of that. But they're not particularly hate anyone. Now, on the other hand, the blue and white eyes. Now, the blue and white eyes doesn't particularly represent people with blue and white eyes. What it is the Caucasian people in this country that have European blood, that believe their blood is pure, so better than everyone else's. So they kind of believe that makes them superior to other people, to set themselves apart from everyone else. So that's how I divided the whole book, the whole manuscript. You got the blue and white eyes and decent white lives. I have it through the whole manuscript. Okay, I think that's enough explanation about that. So now I'm going to get to the poem. Again, this is the blue and white eyes. The blue and white eyes are some of the people with white skin, the people that believe their European blood is pure. Blue blood running through their veins, better and supreme than anyone with color in their skin. They believe the darker a person's skin, the more they become less than seen through wide eyes, seen through the haze of privileged minds, seen through the white gaze of white eyes. They have been destroying lives of black people ever since they laid eyes on black lives living in the first land, the absolutely magnificent motherland. The blue and white eyes built the most powerful and wealthiest country in the world by enslaving black people, by killing and stealing land from indigenous people. They are still taking lives, still in power, still controlling lives over 400 years later by controlling a nation, by oppressing minority people, mostly oppressing America's black people. The blue and white eyes are the people that hold the wealth and the power of government and business in cities and towns, and especially in the U.S. federal government. They have the power to oppress black lives in a country built on lies. In the United States of America, they are still destroying more black lives and killing more black lives than any other minority group living in America. Black lives in America are just living than just dying. From the blue and white eyes, oppression and lies. Through the view of the blue and white eyes, black lives in America count for nothing. Count for less than nothing. It's been that way for a long time, for over 400 years. Such a long time. Such a long time. Such a long time. All right. That is it. That is it. That's the blue and white eyes. Cool. I'm glad I made it through it. Yeah, I really am glad I made it through. Oh, I see we have someone new in the audience. Is that Melanie? Hi, welcome. Is that who we have, Jill? Because I can't see with my glasses or without them. How about that?
That is who we have, yes.
Oh, well, welcome, Melanie. I'm so happy to see you here. All right. So this is the time where we can open the floor to discussion. Anyone that wants to make a comment about the poem I just recited, or you just want to ask a question to me about that poem, I'm opening the floor. So do we have anyone, Jill? I don't think so. Not yet.
Not yet, but I have sent invitations to everyone who's here.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool.
So
All
if
right.
if you're new to Fireside and you see an invitation pop up on your screen, just accept it and then you can talk.
Yeah, that would be cool. Just accept. Talk to me. Yeah, that's what I need. Okay.
So we have Connie is on the stage.
Oh, hello, Connie, my favorite sister-in-law.
Connie, you'll need to unmute yourself.
So down in the bottom, in the middle, there's a microphone, and you just press that microphone and it should unmute you.
It's next to the button that says react. If you just click on it, it'll turn your mic on.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, once Connie finds the mic, the unmute button, I'll start talking. So with this poem, I wasn't trying to offend anyone. I'm just trying to show a difference between decent Americans, the decent white lives, and the blue and white eyes, which I call them. What's showing is that I realize that every Caucasian in this country is not filled with hate. I know that every single one of them don't hate me. They wish me no harm. So in my manuscript, it was very important for me to show that because I am all about love. I do believe we need to learn from each other um, and stop segregating ourselves from each other. Now, the segregation has happened many ways in this country. Uh, some means weren't our choice. They developed what they call red lines. So they decided where the black people in this country could live. If you wanted to live somewhere else, you couldn't get a mortgage in that other area, or the real estate agents actually wouldn't even show you those neighborhoods. So you know that's one way that we've been segregated. Um, but other ways is that Caucasian people didn't know us. They've never lived with us. They've never been around us. Um, and they follow the stereotypes that they may see on television or that they may hear or even what was written in the history books. Um, so they would segregate themselves from us. But we had it twofold because not only did the powers to be segregate us from the rest of the population, we even segregated ourselves. So, for instance, I will use myself. In the past, I would say things like when I was deciding where to live, I would say, I don't want to live anywhere where I'm not wanted. So I would make sure I found a black community to live in. I even grew up in a black community. So that's all I knew. Um, so when it was time for me to find a place to live, I wanted to live with my people, with more black people, where I felt comfortable, where I didn't have to worry about my neighbors just hating me because of my skin color. So I also segregated myself from the rest of the population. And quite often, most of us do because of what we may face if we move to a neighborhood that is predominantly white. We don't know what backlash we're going to receive. So there's a thing my wife talks about, and me and other people, and it's about being a everyday activist. And what can you do as a everyday activist? So you may not be the person that goes out and protest and marches and all of that, but you can do other things. You like me. I write. I write about it. I write poems about it. But not only that, I was thinking of something smaller that I could do. Um, and now that I think of it, it really wasn't that small for me to do. But when it was time for me to move, I decided that I would seek out a white neighborhood. That's my part of activism. At least you're going to see me. You may not want me there, but you're going to see me. You're hopefully you're going to see that I'm not any different than you. I go to work every day. I pay my bills every day. I do everything that you do. This is what I do. I'm just an average American. So I did realize, especially the town I live in, that I would catch some flack. I would catch some racial something, whether it's dirty looks or whether it's, why don't you go back to where you came from? Where's that? Um, so so I did move here and I did receive things. Uh, Actually, almost to this day, I still receive things from people in this neighborhood that I have probably lived here longer than them. And I would get the N word, or my wife Jill would get the N word just in the neighborhood I live in, just driving home. Um, but again, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here. And it's the same thing black families have had to do for many, many, many years, is to be the first black person in a neighborhood. Behind me, you can see a flag and it says "Free-ish" since 1865. Well, the reason we say "free-ish" is because we really are free-ish. We're not really free to move wherever we want because we have to be concerned about hatred, just hatred. When we apply for a job, we don't know whether we're not going to get hired because we're black. And there's a lot of highly educated people in this country that don't get jobs because they're black. Even today, you think maybe that happened in the past, but no, it really still does happen. As a black person in America, we even have to be concerned about what functions we go to, what events we go to. Um, there's an event going on in Georgia. It has to do with cars and everything, and it's up in the mountains. But it sounds like something that would be a lot of fun. Just a lot of fun. They have a lot of music, a lot of cars. All these special type of cars and all of that. And everybody I've talked to says, "Hey, it's a lot of fun. You should come." But they were all white people. So I have to think about up in the North Georgia mountains, do I want to go to that event? Is it going to be a safe place for me to go? And people might think, "Oh, that's not realistic. You're being paranoid." But actually I'm not. Uh, a good buddy and a good buddy of mine, we used to go fishing together in his boat. And we went one time, and when we got back to the boat, every tire was slashed. Every tire on the car was slashed, and every tire on the boat was slashed. And the reason we came back, because when we were leaving the boat ramp, we thought for sure we heard someone call us the N word. And we kept thinking about it and keep thinking about it. And when we came back, they were gone and all the tires were slashed. So these things really do happen. We're not paranoid. These things really do happen to us today. Road rage, I can't tell you the amount of road rage I have received, not because I did anything wrong. They were just pissed that I was where I was at. They felt like I shouldn't have been there. How dare I be there? How dare I drive through this community? How dare I be in this area? It's insane. So hate is really a horrible thing, and especially when it's not founded in anything real at all. It's founded by one group of people feeling they're better than another group of people because of the color of their skin. That is just insane to me. Just insane. Whew. I've been talking a while, Jill. Did Connie ever work out her issues with her mic?
No, I've been texting her instructions. So
Okay.
hopefully
Oh,
we can get
excuse
it.
me. Oh,
In the meantime, yes,
I see Graciela in the audience. She is
yeah.
one of my favorite people. And Graciela was here in the first show, and she asked me if I would send a poem for her newsletter. And I
She's on the
haven't got
stage
it.
with you.
Graciela, there she
Hello,
is.
Anthony. Hello,
Hello,
Jill.
my
Hello,
friend. How are
Anthony.
you?
I am doing so good. I feel bad that I forgot about your show, and I was like, what's going on Fireside tonight? Everything is so quiet, and then I see you, and I'm like, oh, darn it. Oh, but oh my gosh, you're so brilliant, and I agree 100%. And it's just, people are just, I just shake my head, right? It's
Yes.
just incredible, how things transpire, and it's also like I don't know, I don't want to be picky, but it's like the way I see it in my head is it's incredible how things transpire in parentheses in this country.
Yes.
Close
Yes. Yes. I see
parentheses.
you say this country. Yes.
Right. Yes.
I understand. Now, Graciela, correct me if I'm wrong. You are from Puerto Rico? Is that
I
correct?
am. Yes, born and raised. My whole family is still there. I didn't leave until I was 27,
Okay.
and I don't have a lot of family in the States. My older sister lives all the way in Maryland. I have
Oh,
some grandpa's cousins that are all the way in Connecticut whom I've never met. They just don't fly anywhere. They're super old, and we've
okay.
just, never got around to it. And in Florida, we have no family.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh,
Well,
no,
that's
that's
awful.
fine. Well, no, it's okay. No, there's lots of advantages to it. Like I have no one just coming into my home unannounced, like, hello, we're here.
Oh,
They're
that
just they're
is,
just one phone call away. So it's good that we have the blessing of technology for sure. And the last time I went to Puerto Rico was actually right before the pandemic. It was in 2020,
uh-huh,
and they were having some very uh what's the word, traumatic earthquakes.
correct.
I got trapped in an airport with my 8-month old by myself
Oh,
in
wow.
a 6.7 magnitude earthquake, and I haven't been back. There you go.
Wow. So
Yeah,
did
it
the
was something.
earthquake happen while you was at the airport?
The earthquake happened. It started exactly as my ticket was getting scanned for me to board the plane.
Wow. So
Yes, and
you weren't able to take off then.
we had to wait almost 3 hours.
What was that?
I don't know. We
I
waited
heard so,
almost 3 hours for everything to be. I don't even know how they let us up on the plane, and people left. People ran for their lives. The airport was closed because of damages after that. And it wasn't just that one earthquake. See, that's the thing. There's been recurrent earthquakes before that one and
mhm.
after, and that's why I haven't been back. Like, we just don't see these types of things in the news, but the scientists still don't know what's going on around the island, because they just keep happening. And so a lot of
Hmm.
people currently have lost properties, whole buildings, businesses. The infrastructure is definitely suffering because of all these earthquakes. And people like my baby sister, who is a young mother, a toddler, she's only 23. They have bags packed and ready to go in case a big earthquake rolls around. And so that type of living in fear, I'm like, we live in the Sunshine State. If you want to see us, please come see us. But I'm
Yes.
not going over there to put myself through that again, right?
So, and again, this is just what I hear because I really don't get much information about Puerto Rico, but I understand that still, um, they they don't have 100% electricity restored yet. Is that correct?
Um, so Puerto Rico is, how can I explain it? It's the whole spectrum. You have the really rich people. Normally, those are celebrities, like
And
Ricky
they
Martin, who may have
they
a
have
big property
electricity,
there.
don't they?
Right,
They have
exactly.
electricity.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And then you have very indigenous areas that are still living under the, line of poverty, and we don't even hear about them in the history classes. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
found out that those people were there when I was already an adult, and I was like, what? People in Puerto Rico live like this? I didn't
Wow.
even know. Yeah. And so you have everything in Puerto Rico. And the same thing with I don't want to say race because we're all Puerto Rican, but all the shades, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because our blood is African and from Spain, and then the indigenous.
Mm-hmm.
So because you get all the colors of the rainbow, there's a lot of racism as well,
Mm-hmm.
inevitably speaking. And so
Yes.
it's very interesting to grow up in the Caribbean for sure. And then there's the aspect of the kind, quote unquote, special treatment that we get in Puerto Rico because we are semi part of the states, right? As an incorporated,
That's what I was going to ask you about.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
go ahead. What's the question?
what? So what do you see? What's your? I don't know. How do you see the relationship between the United States and Puerto Rico?
Um, well, politics is not my forte. Let's just throw that disclaimer out there.
Okay.
um, but it's always been a kind of a power dynamic that people who are pro statehood believe that it's such a blessing to be a part of the states. And then the people like my father, for example, who was pro independence, believed that the states was always just taking advantage of resources and natural resources as well. Puerto Rico is very rich in nature.
Mm-hmm.
They have the rainforest, they have both Atlantic and Caribbean waters. It is very strategically placed on the map,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's a tiny island. And so it's like, what is it about Puerto Rico that the US is so interested in, as opposed to all these other places, right? And so
Yes.
those people that are pro statehood, they're like, oh yeah, the US is the best. We want to be a state. Let's do it. And then there's the other side of that, which is no, they're taking advantage. And at the same time, they don't provide some of the basic needs. So
You,
there's both
yeah.
sides to it.
Yeah. I kind of feel the same way when it comes to the United States and how they treat anyone that's other.
Right.
Now, I'm very happy that I was born here. I'm very happy that I live here. I've been able to start several businesses where somewhere else I may not have done that.
Right.
Uh, so I've had relative success, um, but many times racism stood in the way of
Right.
that success. I've had people just try to tear me down just because,
Mm-hmm.
within business, just because, no good reason.
Right.
Um, but I feel like United States relationships with Puerto Rico is kind of the same thing. Okay, we'll take care of you, but you know,
Right.
not like we take care of other people. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. And, politically speaking, we don't get to vote for a president. We basically just have
Correct.
someone in the Senate holding space and maybe raising their hand or whatever. So it's a very interesting power dynamic. But like you said, so I feel extremely grateful to have been born in Puerto Rico because I fell in love with the English language when I was 6, committed
Hmm.
myself to learning it when I was 9, and it is a blessing that because we are quote unquote a part of the states, English is part of the curriculum from pre-K to senior year. It
Hmm.
is not an elective. It
Right.
is part of your curriculum. So everybody has access to this language and to being bilingual. It is a fair option for all. Now, does everyone learn it? No, not everyone learns it, right?
Hmm.
There's people who believe that learning it is treason or that learning it is a waste of your time. So, there's a
Hmm.
lot of culture there, right? But I think I made the most of it, and I majored in English as well, so there's a whole history about language in my whole life. But it's beautiful. The culture is extremely rich, obviously, because we have all these three cultures intertwined into one, right? One beautiful
Hmm.
braid of customs. But no, I get it. I absolutely get it. And it's so funny because you're in the Caribbean and everybody should just be chill. But racism is still a thing. I would
Yes.
go to the beach and tan, and you know how some people tan red and some
Hmm.
people tan like cinnamon, right? And
Right.
that's how I tan. And so I'm talking going to school with a heavy tan and being made fun of and being
Everything
called things.
changed.
Yeah,
Everything
exactly.
changed.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is so ridiculous. So there's a lot there for sure. And it's everywhere. It is everywhere. It is a terrible thing, and we need to do better by our children and just teach them better for sure.
Yeah. Let me tell you what I discovered about people. I have traveled, I was truck driver for many years. I'm just doing it now to make a buck, my day job. But for many years, I was owner operator, and I've driven all over this country and Canada many times, more than I can even remember. But what I noticed was whatever part of the country you're in, whoever is the largest minority, that's the one they hate. Doesn't matter. So if you go out west where there's more Native Americans and there are no black people or Spanish people, they hate the Native Americans. It's just insane. If you go down to Texas, you go to Texas, and in Texas there's a heavy um, Mexican population, but there are also many citizens that are Mexican, but they're United States citizens, and everybody hates the Mexicans that are coming across the border trying to save their lives and their family lives. So wherever you go in Florida, you live in Florida. I love Florida. Okay. But people in Florida, when if you talk to someone in North Florida and you talk about Miami, what do they say? Oh, that's not part of the United States. All of those Cubans are down there. All those
That's right.
Cubans. But check this out. When I would do a lot of business in Miami, and I am part Cuban, I don't speak Spanish because my father didn't speak Spanish. Okay. He was born here, but he didn't. Anyway, that's a long story. Why I didn't grow up speaking Spanish, but I don't speak Spanish. But when when I'm in Miami, um, they just hate me. they hate me. If I speak to someone, they just kind of grunt at me. Um,
Sweetheart, we have another person who spent a lot of time in Florida, Charles,
oh, okay.
is on the stage.
Okay. So,
Hello, how are
Graciela,
you?
thank you so much for speaking.
Yes,
And
of
let's
course.
talk to
You're welcome.
Charles.
I want to hear Charles.
Yes, and please
Hello,
stay on
how
the
are you?
stage, Graciela, because you're wonderful.
Yeah,
Hey,
I did.
Charles. I know
Hey,
Charles.
how you
I'm
doing? How
like,
are you doing?
Charles looks familiar. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm all right. It was good seeing you. When was that? 2 weeks ago?
Yep, yes, sir.
Excellent. So, Charles, and you grew up in Florida, right?
I grew up, I'll say, in Chicago, but I moved to
Okay.
high school in Florida, high school and college in Florida.
Oh, now that must have been a culture shock.
Yes, yeah, yes. Although my mother was raised in Miami, so I'd been
Okay.
there before, so it wasn't. I just hadn't lived there. I just visited before then.
Okay.
So moving there, yeah, it was a bit of a culture shock.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest differences you saw between living in Chicago and living in Miami?
Well, Chicago had its own ethnic communities, and they were strong ethnic communities, but there was also sort of a coming together. Even though I understood that there was a political dynamic, especially when it came to politics,
Mhm.
and the mayor's race, especially because that would have been the thing that got the biggest headlines. But every other alderman and every other political race down the board, there was always this sort of struggle between everyone to get those positions. But
Okay.
there was a strength in each community that you could go and participate in each of those communities. But when I moved to Florida, they were there, but as because of the geographical situation, everything spread out a lot more. People are more segregated, and
Mhm.
less they come together. Less they're less likely to come together. And that
Hmm.
really in Florida was the first time that I'd really experienced any kind of racism directly towards me.
And what town was that? Miami, or were you just
That
outside
would have
of
been
Miami?
St. Petersburg. That
Oh,
was in
okay.
St. Petersburg, Tampa, St.
Okay.
Petersburg. Yeah.
Yes, I know that area well. Very well. And around there, you don't need to hang out in communities that were too close to the shore, if you know what I mean. If if it was an affluent neighborhood, um,
Mhm.
we didn't need to be around there that much, especially at night. Maybe during the day when they're thinking we work there, but at night, you just wasn't supposed to be there. You'll get pulled over. Let's put it that way, and questioned. You may not get put in jail or anything else, but you'll get pulled over and questioned
I
in
had
certain
the
communities.
I had the advantage that my dad was the warden for Pinellas County, so I
Oh,
didn't have
everybody knew who you were.
I didn't have
They said, "Oh, don't mess with him. That's such and such
right.
boy."
So right, my name. So we he's senior and I'm junior, so that's why
Right.
I didn't get too much of that from law enforcement.
Oh well, that's good. That's a good thing. Um, yeah, that is a real good thing. I grew up in Long Island, New York, and I had two men that were partly my mentors, one more than the other, but both of them were police officers. One lived right across the street from me, and one lived down the street from me, and I was best friends with his sons. So they taught me a lot about how things really work where we lived. and actually throughout the country. What to watch out for, what to do, what not to do, which are things that a lot of people my age didn't know and didn't understand. Um, as a result, I think I've never been arrested, but I have many of my friends that have been arrested many times. Um, and most of the time they hadn't really done anything to be arrested for.
Right.
So I'm happy that they were my mentors, but I also saw the police force, which was during that time was probably 98% white. I saw them tear down um, one of the men that was my mentor,
Hmm.
just because they thought he was being a little too successful, and they didn't like it. And it's just awful that we should have to experience these things when we're just trying to live our life just like everyone else.
Yep.
It's like we're not supposed to succeed. We're not supposed to succeed. And I just want some of the viewers to think about this, especially if it's in the replay you're watching this. You're just trying to live your best life, take care of your family, pay your bills, and then from nowhere, somebody will just come and destroy you. And quite often they're successful doing that. So those are the things I'm not very happy about living in this country. There's something I say actually it's a line from one of my poems, and it goes, "I love this country. I'm its battered child. This country has been pulling me up and beating me down from my birth to my death. Look how it protects me while it chains me to its past." And that is truly how I feel here, because this country will give me opportunities that I may not be able to get anywhere else. But then at the same time, they'll just beat me up like a battered child, and they keep me chained to the mentality of being a slave. One time, my people were slaves, and it's like they keep that in their mind. So, we let you do this, we let you get a house, and we let you buy a car, but don't try to go too far. Don't try to do too well, because somebody's going to try to pull you down. Um, so, Charles, have you ever had that experience?
No, not me. No, I haven't. I haven't
That's
had
good. I'm so happy
that.
that you have never been had to experience that. Um,
Me no.
I'm wondering if, let's see, who do we have in the audience? I wonder if anyone else in this audience has had that experience here in the United States. So that's probably somebody that was born here. Oh, there's two Charleses here. I don't know if the other Charles wants to speak, but if he'd like to and tell maybe an experience and his experience, because he's quite a bit younger than I. He's about half my age, and I'm wondering what type of experience he has in the United States. Um, being someone that's about 30 years old. So, Charlie, are you ever able to speak tonight? Probably not, because Charlie's not afraid of speaking. So that's that's all right. That's okay. All right. Um, Graciela, I'm coming back
Yes.
around to you because I wanna tell you something before I forget. So I am definitely getting a poem to you. And actually, I wrote another one. I just need to tweak it. I couldn't find the one I thought I could just send to you. So I just need to tweak it. And I just want to let you know I haven't forgotten.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I'm not going to forget either. I'll follow up eventually, and you just do your thing, and I will just keep following up, and you can take your time. It's been a beautiful journey, featuring poets, and I just love doing that. I avoided Twitter for a decade. And then when I got there, I realized that there's so much poetry. Oh, hi, Charlie.
There's
Charlie, you still
Charlie.
here?
Hey,
Yay. So yeah, do not worry about it, brother. I am.
Oh, all right. And Graciela, what is the name of your show on Fireside?
My name is Moon, Magic and Mindfulness with Grace.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
That was pretty good. But let me tell the viewers a little bit about Graciela. She has only been on this app for maybe 3 or 4 weeks,
1 month. That's
and
right.
she has made friends. How long?
I started on August 8th. It's been 6 episodes, and they're all trending. Blessed be. I'm so blessed.
Yes, yes, because Graciela has made friends with everyone. Everybody already knows who Graciela is. So that is wonderful. And she is so kind and loving. She loves everyone. Um, which is something I'm all about. I want us to love everyone. Just embrace everybody, like they're your brothers and sisters and long lost cousins, except the long lost cousins you don't want to see. But the long lost cousins you don't want to see, even though you may not want them around, if it came time to help them, you would. And that's how we need to treat each other. All right. Thank you, Graciela. Thank you, Charlie. And Charlie, the other Charlie, the young Charlie, are you there?
hey, how you doing?
There we are. I'm doing great. How are you?
I've been all right. I'm doing okay.
Good, good. Did you get everything settled?
I don't know. I'm not. No, there's so many moving parts, but it's getting there. I be
Okay.
told today, Rome wasn't built in a day, so take your time. I was like, yeah, you're right. So, but
Oh,
everything's coming together.
good, good. I'm glad to hear that. But Charlie, what I want to know is, as a and I've seen Charlie, so I know he's a black man. So, Charlie, as a black man, and I believe you're 30 years old.
Hmm.
Um, has your experience as a black man in America been any different than my experience? There's somebody that's up in their 60s.
That's a good question. Um, I think I think it's a bit different, but not too much. And that's only because I know that you dealt with racism and racism was blatant for you.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was coming up, like in elementary school, even early in elementary school, racism was like subtle. And it was in your face, definitely, because I'm from the South, from North
Mm-hmm.
Carolina. So it's definitely in your face. You can't mistake it. Like, but then I was a child, so I didn't really understand it until I got older. And I think uh, one of my first instances with racism was with a teacher, and her name. Well, I won't say her name. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure she's not alive anymore, but whatever. I won't say her name.
Okay.
So, this woman, she would take, you know, several other students. I think it was like two or three other students, and sit us in the side of the room. and then she would teach the class. And so we had these books that looked different. It was these math books. I will never forget this. These math books that looked different from the other kids' math books. And I'm like looking, and I'm a quick kid. I was really quick. I was
Mm-hmm.
smart. I'm witty. I'm a clever kid. It's hard to get one over on me. So I'm like looking at the book, and the book had a sticker on it. I always wondered like what's under this sticker. So I scratched it up, and I realized, because I was in the fourth grade at the time, I realized this is a third grade book, and I realized how easy the work actually was, and the rest of the kids were learning different math from it. So it just always it started to
Yes.
occur to me that So I go up and I confront her, and I'm like, I asked her straight up. I was like, why is this book different from the rest of their books? And she was like, don't worry about that. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, no, I am worried about that. I want to know, why is it different? And mind you, the in that other selective group of people, there were actually black kids in that group, but still. And so I was like, why is it that they're learning something different from me? And she was like, stop asking questions. She was like, what did she say? She said, stop asking questions, at least you get a grade. And then I was like, no, that's not fair. I want
Mm-hmm.
to learn what they learn. And like, that was one of my exact words. And so there was another teacher in there, because there was a deaf student in there, and like she started crying, like she started weeping, because she knew exactly
Because
what
she
was
knew it.
happening.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just like, I'm so sorry. Like, even I seen that same lady in high school, and she was like, I'm so surprised you made it to high school. And I was like, what is
Wow.
that supposed to mean? I knew what she meant, but I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to hear it from her mouth. And she was like, Nothing, 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 nothing." And she was like, I'm so sorry. Like, and she just rushed off. But it was just like, I was one, I was, one of the things that they did to black students, or even, and this was the thing, it was ethnic kids in these smaller classes, these classes that would be like, I forgot what they're called. It's not ESL. That's not what it's called. It's called something else. Anyway, the special kids. That's what most people would call us growing up. The special kids, the
Mm-hmm.
kids that needed a little more attention. They were all ethnic kids, and it wasn't the fact of I didn't know or I couldn't receive the same information. It was the fact of I needed to be taught differently, and they didn't understand that. And when I got older, I was able to teach myself a lot of things that school did not teach me. But it was just that simple fact of like, at first it was kind of like I thought, oh, I'm just, I need a little more help than other kids. But then I started to realize, nah, it's because you're black. And this is
Correct.
often what happens. And you don't realize that as a kid growing up. But now as an adult, I know those things. So
Correct.
did we go through the same things? I feel like yes, we had the same struggles, but they learned how to hide it. They learned how to put words over it. They learned how to make it more susceptible and more accepting. And so it's more, and that's the more devious side of it. That's what makes it even more evil, because it's not the fact of like I can do it straight to your face. And I guess that's just like, it's in my character, who I am. Like, if I don't like you, I'll tell you straight to your face I don't like you. I don't have a
Mm-hmm.
problem saying that, but I get along with everybody. So for me not to like you, it says a lot. But
Correct.
the way I always felt like is like, I've definitely met some racist kids, and I've definitely met some racist people, and I was always like, bro, just say it to my face. Like, say it to
Mm-hmm.
my face. Don't say it behind my back. Say it to my face. I have respect for you. You can be blatantly racist to my face, and I know that's kind of weird to hear a black person say, but I would. I definitely would, because then I know where I stand
You
with
you
you.
know where they stand.
Right.
Yes. I,
But
I, I understand that. I grew up in New York,
mhm,
and I moved to the South when I was 22 years old. And there was a big difference. Like in New York, sometimes you would know whether someone was racist for sure because they tell you, get out of my neighborhood or call you names or whatever.
Mhm.
But you're kind of right. What was worse were the people that acted like they were your friends
Yeah.
or that they're in your corner,
Yeah.
but they were racist also.
Yeah.
So you didn't even have the option to see it coming. When they did something to you to take you down.
Right.
Um and and for me, I still look at it that way.
Hmm.
I wish I didn't.
Hmm.
I have, many white friends, but I'm always thinking in the back of my mind is when are they going to do something to me?
Oh yeah.
When
Yeah.
is it going to happen?
Yeah.
It's like I'm just waiting for it to happen. I'm going to treat them with love and kindness and everything else until that point, but in the back of my mind I'm still waiting. When are they
Yeah.
going to do something to me because I'm black? When are they going to say something?
Yeah.
And
And
that's no way to live, you
nah.
know? It really isn't. It's a pressure on all the black people of this country. It's stress that we have to deal with, and quite often we don't even realize that stress is affecting our lives.
Yeah.
That's partly why most of us have high blood pressure.
Hmm.
Some comes from the food we eat, and
Hmm.
that's another long story. And some of it comes from just stress that we're under, and we don't realize we're under it because we've lived in it our whole lives. We don't know any different. It's a
Yeah.
stress we accept.
Yeah. And like systemic racism and oppression, systematic oppression, it's just like it does so much more than what people realize. And now that we've gotten to a point, and in my own personal opinion, like it may not be like what I'm about to say, but in my own personal opinion, it's kind of in a place where it's too late. We're in a place where it's too late, because now that we're aware of it and now that the world's aware of it, it's like, how did you not know? How did you overlook? And now that we're here and we all know and we all see and nobody can hide from it anymore, it's kind of in a place where it's too late because it's done so much damage. It's going to take decades, it'll take generations to break what has been given to us. All these different wounds and all these different stigmas and all these different um just, and also at the same time, generational curses, generational habits, like all these different things that's integrated into us as black people, part just black people alone, not to put everybody else in the conversation, because everybody else in a way has suffered, but not as deeply as black people have, where it's been to the point where they cut us off from our identity, and even had entire books written on how to break us as people and keep it that way for centuries. So now
Correct.
that we're aware of it and now that the world's aware of it, it's kind of in a place where it's too late. The damage is done. And now that we're aware of it, it's like, you heard my story the other day about my father. Like that
Yes.
that's real. Like it's not
Hmm.
just young black men and women that suffer from it right now. It's literally our elders who don't even know what these words mean, that don't know what it means to be schizophrenic, that don't know what it means to be bipolar, that doesn't know what it means to have PTSD, that doesn't know what it means to be a borderline. They don't know those words. They've lived their whole entire lives
That's
with
right.
that, crippled, and not know what it was. And like my dad learned so much through me. So it's just the fact of like, that's heartbreaking. Like when it really dawned on me, I was like, damn, like he doesn't get it. He doesn't know. And then for me to be like, a spiritual person and have all this spiritual power, it takes on a whole different effect. So, it's a lot. It's a lot where other ethnic groups that are descents from Africa have always been in tune with their power and always known their identity. We've lost it, and we've been oppressed to the point where we had to keep it a secret. And even when in our communities, even when we tried to show that power to our people, they were afraid of it because it's been demonized within media. So to step outside of that realm, but just wanted to throw that point out there. But to drive home what you're saying, yeah, like,
Okay.
did I go
Well,
through the same things that you went through? I did, but it was
yup.
in a whole
I say
different way.
yes, you did.
Yeah, it was in a whole
Yes, you
different
did.
way.
So 30 years apart, and you've gone through the same things. Well, part of my show, and I know we're long, we're into an hour already,
Oh my bad.
but part of my show, I created it to bring attention to racism and the caste system. Now, people don't know or don't believe that we're living in a caste system in the United States. Everybody thinks of India being in a caste system, the most famous caste system in history. But actually, and this what I've learned, that we actually are in a caste system. So we're fighting racism, but the racism is driven by the caste system. Now, with the caste system, African Americans, former slaves, or our ancestors were former slaves here, are on the bottom of the list, period. We're on the bottom. So just by our color alone, people see us as less than, period.
Oh yeah.
Period. Doesn't matter how much education we have. If you have some color in your skin, you're on the bottom. I mean, you can see that. No matter what you do, you can see that. It's like prison stripes that we wear every day because it's easy to attack what you see. Now, if I had white skin and my ancestors were former slaves, they would never know, and I would be treated like everyone else. That's the result of, back in the day, we had a lot of African Americans that were fair skinned that tried to pass it white. And many did. And some were even successful of changing their race and changing their children's race because of the color of their skin. So no longer were they on the bottom of the caste. So, in this country, no matter what, the blacks are always on the bottom. And then, it's the Mexicans, all of our Mexican friends that are coming from Mexico and other countries that are of brown skin, they're like right after us. But what do they do with them? They say, we don't want you here. But then everybody puts them to work illegally and takes advantage of them. Just the same way they took advantage of us as slaves, only they get paid a little bit. But if you look at every race, every color in this country, we're always on the bottom. We're always fighting. But then they'll go out and they kill Asian people because they were having a bad day. And the police look at it like, well, that's not such a big deal, because they don't care. Because Asian people in this country are also in the caste system. They're not on the bottom with us, but they're still there. So what I'm saying is where we are fighting racism, but we need to remember the caste system. So we need to learn how to think and how we are going to fight this system that we're under. Um, we have Isabel Wilkinson. She wrote the Caste Book of America. I think everybody should read that book, and you learn a lot. I've read it, and it was just so eye opening because I'm like, how are we ever going to win fighting against racism? But it's the caste system that's the driving force behind racism. So we need to learn how to fight the caste system. Now, what was that? What was that radio talk show host? I don't even want to remember his name, but Jill, what was his name? My producer. You know who I'm talking about.
I actually don't know who you're talking about.
You know everything I'm talking about. Rush Limbaugh. That's his name. So, so the Caste book was written, and he brought this up in his show when he was still alive. And he said that Caste book, there's no such thing. The whole book is a lie. Okay? Isabel Wilkinson spent 10 years of research, and she is highly, highly, highly educated. She spent 10 years of researching all of this, and has proven it over and over and over again. But a voice like Rush Limbaugh can kind of just shut it down. It doesn't exist. And anybody you speak to, especially in the government, is going to say the same thing. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing here. But if you take the time to look, and you can figure out where you fit within that system. So it does exist. That's why other immigrants, Italian immigrants, when they came here, they were close to the bottom of the caste system also. But they was able to pull themselves up by becoming police officers, or being in organized crimes. That's how they pulled themselves up. So every time a different race comes here, people from other countries are able to see the caste system here very easily. And they know, I don't want to be on the bottom no matter what they do. I want to make sure I'm not on the bottom. So they fit into it fine because they know what it is. They see what it is, and they keep it quiet also. But us that were born here and grew up in it, we don't know. We don't know, but we need to know. So I've written many poems about it, and later on in the series, we'll get to some of those. So I do want to thank everybody for coming, because I know it's getting late, and I don't want to keep everybody here all night. Is there anything you want me to do, Jill?
Yes, I would like you to tell everyone your call to action.
Oh, thank you. I do have a call to action, and I wrote it on that other page. So, but yes, what I want the audience to do. Oh, and we didn't touch on the last week call of action, but there are not many people here from the audience last week. But last week, the call to action, I did a poem about family trees, and it discussed the hanging of African Americans in this country. And I wanted the audience to go out and just look at trees and try to remember and look at that tree and see whether maybe that's the type of tree their ancestors were hung from, the innocent ancestors, just out of hatred. So this week, the poem was The Blue and White Eyes, and how it affects us in this country and the Native Americans in this country. So I want you to go out this week and take a look, examine things a lot closer to see if you can identify what I call the blue and white eyes in this country. See if you can identify them. Uh, don't approach them or anything else. But if you look closely, almost every day, you can find somebody that does something, that says something. It can be as simple as you're at the grocery store and someone starts speaking to you and they say, I have a big house. What's that got to do with anything? It's got nothing to do with anything. But they're white and you're of another color or another race. It doesn't matter. But they find a need to tell you, I live in a very big house, or I drive this type of car, or I live in such and such neighborhood. Just this is the first thing they want to say after hello. So these little things happen all the time, but it's a way for them to show themselves that they're better than you. I've had many of those conversations. And then a lot of times I'm able to show them, but I have more than you. And the conversation stops. They'll say, oh, I have this. I have that too. And I have this. I have that too. And I have this. I have that too. And I say, but do you have this? No. And then the conversation ends. It's ridiculous. But pay attention. Pay attention to what people say to you. Really listen. And then come back and report. I would love to hear that. So, again, I thank everyone for being here. The next show is going to be on September 16th at 9 p.m. Please, please, please,
September 17th.
please tell your friends and your family and everyone else. So again, I'm thanking all of you in the audience. I also want to thank the creators of the music that I use. One is called Choral. This one right here is called Choral, and it was created by 29 Beats. And then the one I did with my Blue and White Eyes poem, it was called Most High, and it's made by Dilly Got It Bumpin'. I like that music. That's all right. So, and I also want to thank my producer, because Jill keeps me straight. Everybody knows that. Jill keeps me straight. If it wasn't for her, I'd be lost. Again, everybody in the audience, I love you all. Recommend this to your friends, the ones you like, and to the ones you don't like. They would love it. So, I love you all. I really do love every one of you.